Today on DNVR Buffs Live, the Buffs are going to be one of the best teams in EA Sports College Football 25. And we've got our guy Scott Procter in studio. Let's jump right in. Let's go.
Welcome in to DNVR Buffs Primetime, presented by Legal Pete's. Coming to you live from the Toyota Lounge, driven by your Front Range Toyota stores. Toyota is the official vehicle of DNVR. We've got a banger show today.
Yes, sir.
Scott Proctor's in the house. Welcome, brother.
What's good, my people? Appreciate y'all having me on, man. I feel like it's been a long time.
It's overdue.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yes, sir.
No doubt. Happy to be here.
So where should we start? Do we start with people being upset, or do we start with a question that I've been wanting to ask Scott for a while?
Ask Scott your question. We'll get to the upset people here.
All right. So,
What's up?
take you back to the first time that I met you and learned who you were. I found out, wait, Scott is covering the Buffs for a paper out of Fort Collins?
Yeah.
How is that?
That's the reality of it. It's interesting, man. It's interesting for sure. I mean, like I said, I've been out here for like 6 months now. Been on the job covering the Buffs like 6 months. I got here the last month of November. I met you. My first really assignment was at Colorado State.
I met him in Fort Collins at the
Buffs,
CSU basketball game.
Yeah. And I had told you then when I was, right after I got hired, I was kind of just getting my bearings about the CU beat. And you guys here at DNVR, one of the first kind of outlets that I kind of clung to, and again, to get a feel for it, and respect that you guys do. You guys do a great job. But no, yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, covering the Buffs from a Fort Collins, outlet. Obviously, a lot of our readership is CSU fans historically. Yeah. And they've let me know, or let our publication know quite a bit that they notice, the uptick in Buffs coverage. But it's been fun. Like I said, I got hired pretty much right as this past football season was ending. And it was really due to the fact that, all the buzz that, Coach Prime and the Buffs were generating. Obviously, Kevin Lytle, who covers CSU for us, he does a great job doing it. He, dabbled in some CU content last year. Chris Abshire, who covers high school sports for us at the Coloradoan, he also dabbled in some CU Buffs stuff last year, and it did really well. It was really read. So kind of our management kind of saw it as an opportunity to bring somebody in here who could really, kind of cover the Buffs full time. Once I saw the opportunity, I jumped at it. Obviously went through the interview process, and it went well, and I'm here 6 months later. It's been pretty fun, to say the least.
Yeah, it's crazy. You want to talk about the Prime effect? Like,
yeah.
I've been around the program for many years. I don't remember Coloradoan covering the team, but it's kind of like what we're talking about today with the EA Sports College Football thing. Like, no one can help but take their eyes off it. Everyone wants to read about it. Everyone wants to pay attention to it.
100%.
Something Coach Prime's been saying for his whole life, which is like, love me or hate me, you're going to watch me or you're going to pay attention. And I think it's so interesting. So wait, I guess give us a little bit of your story that led you to Colorado.
Yeah, so I've been just a sports lover, football in particular, my whole life. I played throughout my childhood, throughout my youth in high school. I played college football as well at D3 up in northern Wisconsin. I played quarterback. wasn't very good.
Damn.
But I got some experience. I was a starting quarterback, senior captain my senior year again in college. So I kind of think about football from a quarterback's perspective, I like to think. And again, I knew from a young age when I was done playing, I still wanted to be involved around the game, the sport somehow. Writing kind of came naturally to me. So it was kind of a natural fit. And so kind of started out of college again. I was writing for a college newspaper, doing the whole journalism thing. Got my start at a USA Today paper out in Richmond, Indiana, straight out of college. I was covering sports and education out there for a year before I moved out to Milwaukee the last couple of years, where I was living, covering sports for a national media company called BVM Sports. Shout out to them in Milwaukee. Still doing good things. And from that, it kind of led me obviously to this role. Obviously be gaining some experience, and this is kind of my first kind of time obviously covering, a D1, a Power 4 now program, kind of the first time. But it's been sweet, man. I've been enjoying it. Obviously, like I said, been in Colorado for like 6 months now, living in Denver. I like it a lot. I'm not used to the mountains and whatnot. I'm still not used to, just driving around and just seeing, the Rockies in the background. So it's been fun. It's been dope for sure.
That's awesome.
That's what's up. So, like, when Coach Prime was hired, like, we had an adjustment period, obviously, with the whole thing. And you kind of came in right around the year mark, around December, November-ish.
Yep.
What's the last 6 months been like for you, just trying to, learn this team, catch up, and just get in the know?
It's been, like, nonstop, especially, like, that first month, like December, right after the season ended. It still felt like we was in season, you know what I'm saying? Because there was so much news, with the transfer portal, guys leaving, guys coming in, trying to figure out, the talent level, where it is, watching games from last year, trying to get more familiar with what this roster and what this team already had going, and obviously what they've been able to add. So it's been a constant, really kind of nonstop. Again, that first month in December was really, you guys were busy. I mean, it was crazy, with everything, coming and going. A lot of the changes, coaching staff as well. So it's been fun. I think we got a little bit of a lull here, maybe a little bit of a lull here, which is expected, but things are about to pick up crazy here soon.
Oh, yeah.
Before we know it.
It is crazy. Honestly, before Coach Prime, there was a real off season covering this team.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be completely dead through the summer months. I remember the first year I covered the team, I was like just making up content in the middle of the off season because there's nothing to talk about.
Right. And I can imagine that.
It's such a beautiful thing now that, even today, Colorado football's trending on Twitter.
You wake up, there's going to be something going on.
Yeah, exactly. In the middle of the summer, whether it's a transfer, whether it's someone said something, a well-off video, one-on-ones, it's just we're really lucky to have kind of as much stuff to talk about as we do.
No doubt. So just as you've gotten settled and began to learn the team and stuff, I mean, you kind of went through spring football. Just what was your impression of the team, how everything's ran, and just your experience, I guess, that first month?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. It was really eye-opening too. I mean, I think we all would like a little bit more access in terms of being at practice and whatnot.
Right.
But I think that kind of comes with the territory. And I think obviously with the well-off media stuff, and we get a lot of inside footage that probably other teams don't really get to see. So that part of it's cool. But spring was dope. Just kind of being around the guys and a lot of the pressers, getting to ask some of the new faces, some of the new coaches. Coach Lodeholt, some of the new players, Lejante, Preston Hodge, for example, getting to talk to a couple of those guys and kind of see how their mind works. And it's been fun, man. The spring was dope. It just really made me excited for this fall because it's gonna, like I said, it's gonna be here before we know it, and it's gonna be fun, man.
What's your favorite story that you've done so far on this team or a player on this team?
That's a really good question. There's a lot. I mean, Nakai Hill-Green comes to mind. I know you guys had him on the show.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just a hell of a dude, man.
Yeah.
Football player, man. A football player for real. Again, as a former football player, just got me excited talking to him and just hearing how his mind works and things from the linebacker position, being a leader at that position, a leader of the defense. So that's one of my favorites. A couple of high school ones I did. Cam Michael, who's obviously here now. Really, really impressive young man. Malachi Murphy, another incoming freshman here now. A lot of other guys, man. There's been some really fun ones. I mean, I'm really just trying to rack my brain because there's been a ton.
You talked to Zay before the draft?
I did, yeah. Talking to Zay before the draft was dope, man. Again, just another good kid. You know what I'm saying? Who really just gets it. I'm excited for his future with the Cardinals. I'm hoping he's able to, kind of catch on and play a role there. But yeah, there's been a lot. I mean, Hank Zalitskis was a great chat with him as well. Again, and that's a different perspective, right? Because he's been here, at least last year and including this year, and just kind of seeing how he was able to, adapt to Coach Prime and the new coaching staff coming in and get rewarded, for being loyal, and staying with when that whole offensive line room was really shuffled all around. So that was cool. Those are a couple that stand out for sure.
A couple things you pointed out that stick out to me. First of all, about Nakai, since he was the first one that came to your mind. You obviously played football at a higher level than either of us, but when you've played football, you know that there's like certain guys that when things go wrong or when something's not quite right, everyone in the locker room kind of looks at.
Yep.
And like, how is he reacting?
100%.
That is totally the type of guy that I think Nakai is going to be for this team.
And it only takes one conversation for you to realize that. You know what I'm saying? And again, you don't play a role at Michigan on the college football playoff team for no reason. You don't lead a team like Charlotte. Again, it's a lower level, but they still play real and good football out there. You don't lead a team like that in solo tackles for no reason. You know what I'm saying? And he was a team captain there at Charlotte as well. It wouldn't surprise me if he's a team captain this fall for the Buffs after only being here for, a handful of months. That's just the type of leader he is. And his game speaks for itself. Yeah.
And then the other thing that stood out to me is something that we talk about every single time we talk to one of these guys, which is that,
character.
Coach Prime, smart, tough, fast, disciplined with character is what he's always looking for. And every time I talk to one of these guys, I come away just thinking like he's not joking about that. Like a lot of coaches just say things just to say them. And I'll be honest, I think every coach has some sort of line that they say about how they want guys with character or something along those lines. But of all the teams that I've covered, there's always someone where you talk to and you come away just being like, man, that guy was an asshole. We have not encountered that once, man. The with character thing really is something that Coach Prime and this staff take to heart.
100%. It's not just lip service because you see the proof. And again, another guy that comes to my mind when that gets brought up is somebody I talked to recently in 2025 class is Mantrez Walker. I mean, again, you just hear it in a phone call. This is somebody who's way more mature than their age and somebody who hears Coach Prime when he talks about character and how important that is to being a good football player and a good man and a good leader and all that type of stuff. So I'm excited for Mantrez in this 2025 class as well. Obviously, he's been picking up some steam here lately. I'm sure we might get into that, but
we will.
But yeah, I mean, it's you're not wrong, man. That character stuff. Obviously, Coach Prime takes it serious, but again, it's one thing to take it serious. It's a whole other thing to go out and actually, prove it in your recruiting and the guys that you bring in your building.
Love it, man. I mean, you've been crushing it out there. You've talked to a lot of people. I feel like you have a good sense of what this program is now. So when you see how the national media covers this team and how people speak out wrongly about this team very confidently, what's your reaction to those type of things?
It's just pretty comical to me. I just find it pretty funny. I try not to take it too seriously because I think if you do that, you're gonna, it's just not gonna go well for you mentally.
Right.
But I mean, I think a lot of that stuff, it just comes from being uninformed. People aren't here. People aren't around the team. A lot of people. Social media has a lot to do with it. A lot of people get their information from small clips or from a short quote here and there, instead of. And again, that's not always their fault because not everybody can be in Boulder, Colorado, around this team. It's a privilege, honestly. So I mean, people really shouldn't talk about things that they're not completely informed on. But that's just the world we live in, and it makes for some fun and engaging and interesting topics and conversations. So that's cool too.
It is interesting though. Like I've seen you kind of clap back at a couple things or just make your opinion seen, and it's kind of like comforting to me.
It is, yes.
I am biased. Like I'm incredibly biased. I love Colorado. I went to Colorado. I grew up in Boulder.
Right.
So like sometimes I just like to see like a confirmation that I'm seeing it through a clear lens, and I'm like,
for sure,
Scott is not from here. He didn't go to Colorado. He just started on this job, and he can see that this is BS. I'm like, I'm right about it being BS.
Yes.
No, I try, like I said, I try not to clap back or pay the haters any attention on social media. But I do remember one time, I think it was a Nebraska fan just commented on something that was completely unrelated to the Nebraska Cornhuskers. And I think it was just something about last year's result, and I just replied, just asking him a pretty rhetorical question. I think you had peeped and was like, "Get him, Scott." And I was like, "See, I try not to get involved, but sometimes you just got what Kendrick say. Sometimes you got to pop out and show people.
Yes,
you know what I'm
sir.
saying? You got to pop out and show people sometimes."
I love Jake going in there and stoking.
Right? That had me dead. But yeah, I try not to. Again, I'm the complete opposite. I am completely objective. I am not biased. I don't have any connections to the state of Colorado, to the Colorado Buffaloes, to this program really at all. I'm truly coming at this from an objective perspective. And I hope that shines through in my reporting and my writing and, what I post on social media and whatnot. But Yeah, I mean, I'm just really calling and, you know, telling it how I see it. And I think, you know, that's what the world would be a better place if more people did that, you know?
For sure.
And I think, honestly, like, you're right about the fact that not everyone can get as close to it as we have.
Right.
And I honestly think it's so important. Like, I would just encourage anyone who covers the sport to make a trip to Boulder and just, like, check out the way things are. Because you start to realize that, like, Coach Prime isn't this maniac guy who's making everything about himself, like, which is what everyone wants to paint it to be. And it's like all it takes is like one day in that facility. You start to realize that the opposite is true. Like, of course, does Coach Prime want his sons to succeed? Who doesn't?
Right.
You know, but at the same time, he wants every single person, not just on the team, every single person in that building to feel success, to grow and reach their goals. And, like, you know, there's a woman, I honestly need to get her name, but she works in, like, cleaning up the facility. And, like, every time we see her, she just glows about not, you know, Coach Prime, or she's like, oh, I saw Coach today. He's just so sweet, you know, like, whatever it is. And it's like, you can just feel that everyone around there that's actually seeing it knows what's up. And I encourage people to just try to make it to Boulder so you can get that perspective.
Absolutely, man. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll touch on some recruiting stuff and actually dig into this team with Scott here in a second. But shout out to our friends over at BetterHelp. We're going to talk about mental health here. There's a bit of a stigma around it, but as you've mentioned and we've talked about on this show, I think our generation does a great job of trying to eliminate that stigma. There's a lot of things going on in life. Life is hard, man. We've all got to balance relationships, work, and all these unexpected things that happen to us. If you're looking for someone to talk to or need help, hit up our friends over at BetterHelp.com. We can get you a deal, too, if you go to BetterHelp.com/DNVR today and get 10% off your first month. Become your own soulmate, whether you're looking for one or not. Visit BetterHelp.com/DNVR today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/DNVR. There's a lot of people mad today who I think could probably use some better help.
I was going to say, I'm not trying to make a joke out of this at all, but there are genuinely some people in my mentions that would benefit so much from going to BetterHelp.com/DNVR. Also, shout out to Toyota. I love my Toyota. It is my favorite car I've ever had. I've got the RAV4 now, but I can't wait to upgrade to my next Toyota. I'll be a Toyota guy for life, and I'm not just saying that because their logo is on our beautiful mics here. I've had it before then, and I'll have it after then. So if you want to get a Toyota and get in on some of their great features that the cars have, the safety, the way they ride, everything. I've yet to have to take mine to a mechanic.
Wow.
I've had it since, I think, 2020. So shout out to Toyota. If you want a Toyota, visit your Front Range Toyota stores at a location near you. Auto Nation Toyota, Arapahoe and Centennial. Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota is a proud partner of CU Athletics and the official vehicle of DNVR.
All right, back here on the show, we got Scott Procter today. We're going to dig into the team here right now, but get your questions in the Toyota chat for Scott about the team, whatever you got. We'll get to them shortly. We got a commitment yesterday. Jay Gardenhire, a massive offensive tackle.
Big fella.
I want to ask you about the recruiting weekend and everything, but we've got some serious momentum with this team right now in terms of recruiting.
No doubt about it, man. It's clearly on to the 2025 class, right? It's about building about next season and beyond, and that's what the good college football programs do, right? You know, they reload, and obviously they get as much talent as they can from the high school level, and obviously that's what Coach Prime and his staff have been doing here recently. The 2025 class is shaping up pretty nicely. Again, Mantrez Walker, who he mentioned earlier, really, really good linebacker. I talked to Philip Dukes, shout out Dukes, On3's national recruiting analyst a couple weeks ago, and he told me straight up that Mantrez would be a 5-star if he was about 2 or 3 inches taller, and I completely agree. I think the film kind of proves that as well. I mean, a sideline player, can lay the wood. I mean, this boy can really hit. So, again, he's a big piece of that 2025 class. Somebody who I'm really excited about. I'm trying to work on the story. If you're watching this, Alex Graham, CU Buffs 2025 class. I'm trying to get in contact with him. Really slept on, underrated player. Dukes told me something about Alex Graham that I think will get a lot of people excited. I'm going to hold on to that right now. But Alex Graham is really, really like that and really sought after, even though he's committed to the Buffs, really still sought after by a lot of SEC programs in particular at the moment. So he's, again, from IMG. Hopefully, that boy Jordan Seaton and the other IMG guys can kind of keep him locked into the Buffs. And obviously, Gardenhire, who committed yesterday, a huge dude, 6'8", 350.
Yeah.
I mean, just looks unreal. I think you mentioned him before. He's the dude that, the first guy off the bus, first guy onto the field type dude. Yep. Chauncey Gooden, a blue chip offensive lineman who had offers from some of the best college football programs in the country. And those two, really good young offensive line pieces for hopefully, Julian Lewis, JuJu. Hopefully that's the biggest prize. And I'm sure we can probably get into that. But, I like the Buffs' chances right now for him, to be honest with you, to flip him from USC.
So you're trying to get in touch with Alex. Are you saying you're trying to meet the Grams?
Hey, that's one too many Kendrick Lamar references for me as a Drake fan in here. But no, facts though. Hey, Alex Graham, my boy, if you seeing this, hit me, my boy.
Yeah, hit him back. On Jay Gardenhire.
Yeah.
I said this to you yesterday because this happened after the show. To me, this is Phil Lodeholt kind of calling his shot.
It's exactly what it is.
And did you see the picture that Corey tweeted out?
I did.
Which one?
It was like
with the Buffs hat.
Yeah, Phil with a Buffs hat on sideways. Like I feel like he was kind of confirming what I said to you.
Yeah.
Look, in NFL front offices, in college rooms, in all of these places, as a coach, you kind of have a couple like bullets in the chamber that you can use, where you can like pound your fist on the table and say like, nah, this is my guy. And I don't know this for a fact, but I have a feeling that Phil Lodeholt saw Jay Gardenhire and was like, I can turn this guy into a star.
Well, you look at Jay Gardenhire, it's kind of like, I'm sure for Phil Lodeholt at least, it's like looking in a mirror a bit. Because he, was massive coming into college. He kind of had to deal with the same thing of like, how do I play at this size? Do I need to lose weight or whatever? And then obviously he goes on to have this long NFL career. But if Jay Gardenhire works out, this is now 3 pieces of the offensive line. Could be 4 if you factor in Hank as well.
Yep.
Jordan, Chauncey, Hank, and now Jay Gardenhire. Like, they're building an offensive line for the future.
Well, and you're not even talking about Zachariah Owens, Peyton
Right,
Kirkland.
exactly.
I mean, they kind of already have an offensive line of the future. And, we talked about it before, but, like, you're always going to try to improve on that. But, man, I like where they are from a young offensive lineman standpoint right now.
And just piggybacking off that, again, from my conversation with Dukes, that's something he talked to me about, too, that offensive line. You get some guys like Peyton Kirkland and Zachariah Owens last year, they're probably thrown into the fire right away where they maybe not start, but they're your 6-7 guy, offensive line in that room. Whereas now I don't think any of us up here are expecting either of those 2 guys to play a major role with all the guys that they brought in up front this offseason. So I think that just really speaks to how much they've improved that offensive line. Again, not only the talent, the projected starters, but the depth, the youth of that group that has a lot of room to grow as well.
Yep. Julian Lewis, then. Your read on last weekend, just what the fan base was able to do, how Boulder showed out. And, I mean, you already said you think they have a good chance of flipping him, but just your read on him as a player and coming to Colorado.
Man, him as a player, man, it's he's the type of dude that every college football program wants, as their franchise, or their program cornerstone, I should say. Somebody you can build with, who you can feel comfortable with winning games with right away as a freshman maybe, and then hopefully, elevating as you build more talent around him, you can get to a playoff level with. He's a playoff caliber, college football playoff caliber quarterback. And I think the thing that makes him special is very similar to Shedeur, is just his processor, how well he processes things, how quickly he processes things. Obviously, the arm talent is there. I think JuJu is a bit more athletic than people give him credit for. And I think, him getting in a college football conditioning and strength program will help him unlock more of that. But in terms of what CU did this past weekend, the Buffs community, they went all out, man. They showed out. I think they did everything they could to possibly convince JuJu, his father, T.C. Lewis, to flip from USC, flip from Lincoln Riley, one of the best, kind of quarterback coaches in college football, to flip, from over there to the Buffs. I think what they did at the sink, creating the JuJu's precision pass burger was dope. Obviously there was a contingent, I think you were there, fans, at the Champion Center to kind of greet him and the other recruits who were there this weekend. And I think the thing with JuJu is to me right now, it's a 2-team race. Obviously, it wouldn't surprise me at all if JuJu if he's, honored his commitment and stayed committed to USC. I don't think Auburn is really in it. If you're asking me, I think it's really just
you're gonna have some Auburn
USC
fans in your mentions later.
Yeah, and that's fine. I think to me, I think it's between USC and Colorado. And the thing that I think makes the Buffs enticing to JuJu, and again his father TC Lewis, because we can't discount TC's involvement in this recruiting process, is the fact that, one, obviously everybody knows this, JuJu has a path to playing right away as a freshman, which is super valuable for somebody who wants to get to the NFL, right? That's the ultimate goal for JuJu and TC, to get him to the NFL. I'm going to be able to play right away. And again, something Duke's talked about, something I wrote about, the relationship between Deion Sanders and TC Lewis. They're like real life friends, like they real life cool. And TC Lewis loves and admires and respects what Deion has done as a father for Shurmur. Again, not only as a father, but as his coach. And we saw what Shurmur was able to put on the field from an individual perspective, last season with, when you ask me, in a lot of ways, he was set up to fail with the offensive line situation, with the offensive coordinator situation, switching halfway through the season. So TC Lewis is taking note of all that. And, I think they like the idea of, kind of being next in line, with, again, all the commitments that we're talking about, building for the future. You can slide somebody in there like Julian Lewis, again, as the heir apparent to Shurmur. I think that's enticing for both sides for sure.
That's great stuff, man.
Yeah, I love that point that you made about just the relationship between Coach Prime and Shurmur.
Yep.
And the relationship between TC and JuJu. And I think when you're in TC's shoes, for the first time, you're sending him out on his way. And he's not going to Georgia or Georgia Tech. He's not going to be in your backyard anymore. Right. You're going to have to put him in someone's hands who you trust.
Yep.
And, not that you can't trust Lincoln Riley or whoever else, but there's just, as we all know, you connect with different people on different levels.
Yeah.
And there's clearly a real connection there. And I think that he sees the way that Coach Prime treats Shurmur and is thinking, man, JuJu could be the next one to, be in that role. And obviously not his son, but treated like a son. And I think parents shouldn't make decisions for their kids, but it's clear that JuJu and TC have such a close relationship that he's not going to make the decision for him, but his opinion matters a lot.
100%.
And it's going to inform what JuJu ends up deciding.
And one more thing, too, on that note, relationships are so critical to recruiting. Like,
absolutely,
arguably the most important facet of recruiting are relationships. And again, we just talked on the relationship between TC and Deion Sanders, and probably JuJu and Coach Prime as well. But JuJu is a Georgia boy, right? A Georgia kid, right? Mantrez Walker from Georgia, right? Yeah. Cam Michael, who we saw in the IG Live, basically say he coming. Yeah. He was probably joking, right?
Yeah.
But that's somebody who clearly they have a relationship where Cam feels comfortable enough to joke with him like that. You know what I'm saying? Again, from Georgia, and again. This is somebody, when you go into college and you go into play a sport, and again, I can relate to this, you want to feel like you're joining a home away from home. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to feel like you're going to a foreign place. And I feel like if JuJu were to flip to Colorado, he feels comfortable with Coach Prime. He feels comfortable with Pat Shurmur, who we haven't even really brought up or talked about a lot, but that's been reported in the past that JuJu really likes Pat Shurmur and his NFL experience and whatnot. And if you're close with a lot of the dudes on the team, you can relate to them. And just a quick story too. On my recruitment, again, I was just choosing between a few D3 schools, nothing major at all. But just making that decision, one of the things that helped me make the decision, the school that I went to, is because I'm Chicago native, born and raised. My recruiting coordinator at that school had made an effort to recruit a lot of the Chicagoland area. So I knew a handful of the guys that I was going to college with, playing ball with, from the Chicago high school football scene. And that was really the deciding factor. And I love my college football experience. College experience, was there for 4 years, played all 4 years. And that's just something how shows how important relationships are in recruiting. And I think it'll play its head here in JuJu's recruiting.
Definitely, man. I think you go back to when JuJu was on his second visit, post that photo of Coach Prime and TC talking, and he says, thank you for what, I can't remember what he said exactly, but thank you for always looking out what's best for me.
Yep. You just can't take that stuff lightly.
Exactly.
No. You can't.
Nope. Yeah. And just like what Philip Dukes was talking about with the whole comment of real.
Yes,
100%.
From GC. Like, that's the same idea. And then, you pull TC's pinned tweet about how he doesn't need people telling his son how great he is. He needs them to tell him how they can get better. Something along those lines.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's all kind of, the stars feel like they're kind of aligning.
Yep. All right, let's take another quick break. We got to get into these EA college football rankings.
I didn't realize we were going to wait so long.
Well, great conversation. I don't know what you want from me here.
I didn't say there was anything wrong with it. I just said I didn't realize.
You may have to chill, bro.
I could chill.
And shout out to our friends over at Coors Light. Tomorrow, we are going to be competing in a Madden tournament here at the bar.
Yes.
We're going to be crushing Coors Lights while we're at it.
But tonight I'm going to a country concert, so I'm going to be crushing the Coors Lights.
You're going to be drinking it from a funnel, basically.
You got it.
But shout out to Coors Light. Come hang out with us down at the DNVR bar. We got it on draft. We got the silver bullets. We got the banquet beers and stubby bottles as well. Make the most out of the times you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light. You can get it delivered straight to your door with Instacart also. Go to the link, CoorsLight.com/DNVR. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Also, shout out Vestibule, a cool new app that is allowing you to invest in players. And the first player that they have is the Denver Broncos' own Baron Browning. Something worth checking out. It's pretty cool. You can buy shares in Baron Browning, and if he ends up getting a huge second contract, then it will pay out for you as well. So check out Vestibule. Baron's IPO is live right now, and shares are available for purchase, but they are limited. So go download the Vestibule app right now and invest.
Let's get into it. Let's do the one that made everyone mad first, Alyssa, the offensive one.
This is great, dude. I'm so happy about all this.
This lit the world on fire this morning.
Yes, it did.
So there you go. Offensive power rankings for EA College Football 25. Georgia at number 1 there. But you don't have to go too far down to find CU. In a tie for 5th, actually, with Ohio State, LSU, and Miami. Is Mizzou in there too? Mizzou is in there too. So Colorado, 8th best offense. I said yesterday on the show they'd be top 10 offense.
You did. You called your shot. I didn't think that they were going to get this much respect. But shout out to EA Sports. I guess they know ball.
They do know ball.
And let me just start with stating the obvious here that I think a lot of the uninformed haven't figured out yet. Colorado's going to have 2 of the 5 highest rated players in the game.
Yes.
At least that's my prediction. And the scores here are based on an average of the starting players. Mm-hmm. And so when you're going to put, a 98 and a 97 in the lineup, it is obviously going to boost the rating. Then you throw in like Will Shepard, I bet is going to be a mid-80s receiver. Mm-hmm. Jimmy Horn is going to have insane speed. LaJohntay Wester might, be high 80s, low 90s receiver. Yep. Like it starts to add up and starts to make sense. And then the offensive line should be really interesting to see the ratings that they give those guys. But this is based on that. So people shouldn't be so surprised that a team that has 2 Heisman candidates on the offense is going to end up being ranked really high.
Yep.
And again, the Buffs have one of the best quarterbacks in college football.
Yep.
That really can be understated. Again, it's the most important position on the field. Yep. Again, Shurmur was great last year and the Buffs weren't great. We understand that. We all get that. But when you look at the offensive line improvements, the fact that he was sacked 50+ times last year, and the fact that an entire offensive line is going to be new, filled with experienced guys, talented guys who have played a lot of Power 5 college football, and then the weapons are just really video game like. When you start with Travis Hunter, when you go to LaJohntay Wester, who is probably the player I'm most looking forward to watch this season. I think LaJohntay Wester is in for a huge season, both as a receiver and as a returner. Will Shepard was great the last few years in the SEC at Vanderbilt. Jimmy Horn, obviously, Omarion Miller is going to break out this year. A lot of people think I'm one of those people in that camp as well. So when you got one of the best quarterbacks in college football who should be much better protected than he was last year with a handful of talented weapons, I don't really understand how this wouldn't be a top 10 offense in the country.
I think Coach talked about this with Klatt way back then. Obviously, we just saw it Monday. But they're just kind of talking through it, and they bring that fact up that he was the most sacked quarterback in college football. And Klatt says, okay, what if that's just like cut in half?
Yep.
And then you factor in that, what was it, 5 games that they lost by 10 points or less, whatever it was. You factor that in. Those games are decided by a bounce of the ball, maybe 2 or 3 sacks here and there. Like, the wins start adding up pretty quickly once you think about that.
Oh, yeah. Like you said, you take 25.5 sacks off the board across 12 games.
Those are drive
2
killers.
sacks a game.
Yes.
And 2 sacks a game. I mean, I can think of 2 sacks just in one game alone that we don't mention on this show that if they just converted those opportunities, they win that football game and maybe even win it going away because obviously things slipped out of their hands and started snowballing. But it's those types of plays make such a big difference. And we're talking about cutting it in half, which would probably get them to what, around middle of the pack?
Yeah, and that's still not great. As Clyde was saying, that's still really bad. Bo Nix was sacked like 6 times last year.
Yeah. So if they can go all the way to the other side of it, which again, that would be an insane improvement. I'm not necessarily expecting that out of them. Mm-hmm. But now you're talking about, I would say an opportunity to have a top 2 or 3 offense in the country if you were able to flip it that much.
100%. The other thing I would add too about the sack issue is that it wasn't all on the offensive line, right? Shurmur has to take some blame for some of the sacks that he took. And I would expect him to be better in that regard this year. Again, watching film from, this past season and just getting a better feel, having more trust in the guys in front of him, I think is going to help him, allow him to take less sacks. Because, again, it's not always on the offensive line. As a former quarterback, I can attribute to that. It's not always on the offensive line when a quarterback is taken down for a negative play. But as you mentioned, those are drive killers. They can kill an entire quarter and an entire half, if you allow them to stack up, like the Buffs did quite a bit last year for sure.
Well, and we had a really illuminating interview with Shurmur at the Super Bowl where he talked about how many choice routes and option routes that they had in that offense last year and how he didn't directly say this, but I came away being like, well, that's one of the reasons he was holding the ball, because he essentially said, like, I wasn't 100% confident that the wide receiver was going to make the right choice. Yeah. And so I had to hold it just another half second to make sure that they came out of that break. It's like this year, everything is going to be in his mind, almost, for those of you who play Madden, like the play art. He's going to have the play art in his mind before the play. He's looking out at the defense and he's saying, okay, this is the gap. I just have to wait until this, backside dig gets in between the linebackers and it's going to be open. Rather than I got to wait to make sure that he's going to make that cut and then I can throw it. He can throw it with anticipation.
For sure. Alyssa, can you pull up the offense again? So just looking through this, Colorado does have the highest ranked offense in the Big 12. Utah would be next. They're at number 11. Kansas is also at 14. Arizona's at 15. UCF at 21.
There's going to be some points scored in this conference.
100%.
Tons. But the top 5, Georgia, Oregon, Alabama, Texas, Ohio State. Let's go to defense. And this one was probably the most surprising one.
Yeah.
Because when we talked about it yesterday, I said Colorado will be top 10 offense. Defense is where they're going to be disrespected. I don't even think this is not disrespect. They're ranked 20th overall.
Yeah.
84 overall on defense.
I actually think that EA kind of calling their shot a little bit.
I love it, man.
Now, again, I'll go back to ratings. You're going to have, I'm going to guess that Travis Hunter is a 98 overall player in this game.
I think he'll be 99.
So there you go. A 98 or 99 overall player on your defense is going to help your ranking a lot.
100%.
Especially when maybe 1 or 2 other teams on this list will have someone even close to ranked that high. There's probably a lot of 93s and 94s, and Georgia's going to have some players ranked really high, Alabama too. But that's going to boost you up significantly. And then I think Shiloh is going to get a very, very strong rating.
Agree. Yep.
After
Preston
that,
Hodge.
I'm very and you bring up Preston Hodge. EA did say that they worked with PFF.
And he was the number 1 graded G5 corner.
Exactly. Yep. And so maybe he gets rated, in the high 80s.
Yep.
Interesting.
We know, I think Chidoze, Block Bully, had a good PFF rating. So you start to add this stuff up and it starts to make sense a little more. But I do think that if there's one place where EA is kind of calling their shot or giving a little bit of benefit of the doubt to Colorado, it's here. And I love it because I'm with them.
Yep.
No doubt. I think, you mentioned a few of the secondary guys and obviously Chidozie as well, the block bully. I think this pass rush is probably going to be the biggest reason why the Buffs defense is improved and probably why this ranking is the way it is. I mean, guys like BJ Green, who was awesome last year at Arizona State, set career double-digit tackles for loss, career highs in sacks and whatnot. The Buffs got the Pitt's leader in sacks and Pitt's leader in tackles for loss, obviously in Okunlola and Deion Hayes. I mean, those three guys, if the Buffs just added those three guys this portal, this offseason in terms of pass rush, I think a lot of people would feel pretty good about it. But the additions of additional guys like Rayan Buell, you know, a defensive lineman from Ohio, I think is kind of flying under the radar right now. He looks like a problem in the middle of that defense as well. And there were some other guys. I mean,
Torian Carter, Barnes looks great.
Big Quinn Barnes, man.
Quincy Wiggins as well, kind of unproven guys who are really kind of wild cards, so to speak, not in a disrespectful way, but they can turn into guys, you know. Again, Quincy Wiggins looks like a video game character, you know, especially, you know, here recently, you know, after, you know, spring workouts and whatnot. So I think this pass rush is going to be very much improved, and I think that's just going to make every level of the defense better. It's going to help the linebackers. It's going to help Nikhai Hill-Green and Trevor Woods and, you know, Bentley and those boys at the second level kind of not see as many big offensive line at the second level when they're faced, so they can focus on making tackles. It's going to help the secondary because that quarterback, he's facing a little pressure. He's going to let that ball fly a little bit more before he wants to, a little bit less accurate, and that's going to lead to more interceptions. I think Travis Hunter going to have, this is so random, but Travis Hunter, I think, is going to have a pick six in him this year. Well, I'm kind of surprised he really didn't have one last year. I mean, but he obviously made some special plays. But
he had to leave his feet every time he got the ball.
Pretty much. But again, I think that pass rush is going to lead to more turnovers, obviously interceptions and fumbles for this Buffs defense here for sure this offseason or this season.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the sacks. Do you remember how many team sacks they had last year?
I can find it in just a second.
30?
If you want. It's around there, yeah.
I think it was like 27 or something like that.
Yeah. If you changed nothing about the team other than taking sacks that they give up away and adding sacks to the defense, you have a team that maybe wins 7-8 games last year. And that's not even talking about, like, you know, adding talent in the secondary, adding talent at wide receiver, all that stuff. You keep the exact same team and you add more sacks to the defense and take sacks away on offense, and it completely alters the way that season turned
27
out.
sacks.
Okay, great call. So they basically got half as many sacks as they gave up.
Yep.
Just crazy. You just can't win consistently that way.
No.
And I think that those are probably the two areas that you can point to as the biggest reason for a 4-8 record. They didn't protect the passer enough, and they didn't get to the passer defensively enough. And I think those are two areas that were certainly addressed this offseason via the transfer portal and whatnot. And obviously, we'll see how it shakes up with new coaching as well. I think coaching is going to be pivotal this season. Yeah. How Rob Livingston does in his first year calling plays, being a defensive coordinator, is going to be a massive storyline for this season. And obviously, Pat Shurmur, his relationship with Shador, how he balances the pass game and the run game, because they have, I don't think we talked about that yet, but the run game has to be better too.
Yep.
And obviously, there's a lot of moving parts to that. Obviously, the offensive line, who you have back there at running back, the schemes and whatnot. But that part has to be improved. So, you know, Shurmur and Livingston, they got a ball. They got to be on their game this year for sure. And I think it's on the table too that I was just randomly thinking about this yesterday, but like, what if Livingston is like a star? You know, like it's like we look at him a year from now where he's one of the best defensive coordinators, you know, in college football. I think that's on the table with his, you know, background coming from the Bengals, learning under Lou Anarumo, one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL. So, you know, obviously those are big ifs, but if those things roll the Buffs' way, it can get really scary here in a good way.
You know, and we're kind of already starting to see it. I feel like Coach Lodeholt is already starting to become a little bit of a star.
Oh, yeah.
But it's the same thing. It's like if you hit on that and you hit on Robert Livingston, like you mentioned, that's game-changing.
100%.
Let's go back to the defensive graphic real quick, Alyssa. So the top team defensively in the Big 12 is Utah. They're at 10th, 88 overall. We also have Colorado would be the second then, actually. At 20th, 84 overall. OK State right behind them at 84 overall also, so a tie with them, and also K-State at 24. Your top five, Ohio State, Georgia, Oregon, Bama, Clemson. Gonna be interesting.
It's kind of crazy to think about, like, if EA Sports is even close to right about this.
Oh, yeah.
So is that the number 2 offense and defense in the Big 12?
Number 1 offense, number 2 defense.
Yep.
If that ends up being true, which it's kind of crazy to see it like on a graphic like this, because like we've obviously been talking about this team being a lot better than people think, but like for the first time, it's like someone is saying that's not us. And it's if that happens, we're going to have a lot of fun this year. Every receipt in my bookmarks on Twitter is going to get emptied out.
And the bookmark buttons have been getting a workout today, boy. Let me tell you.
And just to kind of put this into full perspective, if you average out the offensive rating and the defensive rating, Colorado is the 10th highest rated team in this game.
Wow.
We'll see if it bears itself out that way.
We find out tomorrow. Yeah.
But just based on those two averages, Colorado comes out to 86.5, right behind Notre Dame, Utah, and Penn State, who are at 87.5.
Let's go, man.
Wow.
All right, we'll push fill in the blank to tomorrow. Let's get to questions, though, to the Toyota chat.
Hit the like button.
Hit the like button.
Let's get to
subscribe
500
to the channel
before this thing's over.
And subscribe to the podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all those. Dave asks, curious if Scott has gotten any time with Coach Prime yet. Has that trust been established?
Haven't gotten the one-on-one time with Coach Prime. Like you guys have had him on the show at least once, right? Maybe a couple times. Yeah. Right. So yeah, I haven't had that one-on-one time with Coach Prime. Obviously been in media pressures with him, asking questions and whatnot, when we have media availability. But yeah, I mean that's important. He mentioned trust. I think that's something Coach Prime has talked about too, and I think that's something important you got to build. I mean that's something obviously I've thought about, but again, I'm still relatively new on the scene. I've only been in Colorado 6 months. I don't even think it would have been right if I, walked up on him or tried to get in contact with him in a month or two on the job. Like I haven't really established myself or even really gotten to know his program at that point. I think it's getting close to that time, and I think y'all should expect a little one-on-one with me and Coach Prime here.
There you go. Hell yeah.
Sometime soon, for
You're
sure.
on your way, bro. You'll get it.
I'm expecting it.
What's up, Nicholas? What differences do you expect for Pat Shurmur's offense? Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, I just expect it to be more balanced. I think it's what he has to do, right? I think that's what Sean Lewis fell victim to at times last year, is because when you have a quarterback as talented as Shurmur, when you have weapons that you feel really comfortable about, you want to throw the ball, and doesn't always work that way, and it can't always work that way if you're trying to win consistently. In a conference like the Big 12 that has some really good running games, like Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Utah are all going to pack running games, and Colorado has to be able to at least show the threat of a run. You know what I'm saying? Again, it's going to open up the pass too, because I expect a lot of 10 and 11 personnel with 3, 4, even sometimes 5 receivers on the field. And you're going to get a lot of light boxes, and Shurmur has to take advantage of that. You know what I'm saying? And again, a lot of the times it might be a called pass, and there might be some responsibility on Shurmur even as well to check out of a pass when you get a certain, light box, a run look. You might have to check into a run. And again, I like where the running back room is right now with, Dallin Hayden and Gustav, and obviously Michael Welch and, Charlie as well. But it's going to come down to Shurmur being committed to being balanced offensively and just not being one-dimensional, because that can get you in trouble, and it got him in trouble a lot last year.
I'm so interested to see how this works, because one of the criticisms of Pat Shurmur when he was the Broncos offensive coordinator was running the ball on 2nd and long.
Yep.
Now, hopefully it works better than it did for them.
Yes.
But the point is, I've always said if you're actually committed to the run game, you are willing to run it on 2nd and 8.
Right.
And if you're not, then that's fine. But teams who say they're committed to the run game are willing to run it after a 2-yard run.
Yep.
Will they be willing to do that? I got to admit, it would be so hard to do with Shurmur and the weapons that you have on the outside. But I think it'll say a lot early in the season if you see this team willing to do that, and it'll go a long ways towards keeping teams on their toes.
Yep.
Me personally, I always talk about, it would kill me to go 3 and out and only have my Heisman candidate quarterback only throw the ball one time.
I know.
But you got to find that balance somewhere, and sometimes you got to take your medicine and just run the ball, because you want to set it up for Shurmur later in the game.
100%.
Yeah, I think you guys are pretty spot on. One of the things I want to ask Pat Shurmur and Coach Prom the most, though, is the pace of this offense, because this time last year, that's all we heard about was we're going to go fast, like everything's done fast on offense, blah, 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 blah. It ended up coming to, we saw it at its peak against TCU, obviously, but it did end up coming back to bite them back in the later parts of the season. So I'm interested to see that perspective. And then kind of what Scott was saying, I think it's going to be, you're going to see Shurmur do like his best like Brady and Peyton Manning impression at times, where he is truly quarterbacking the entire offense, changing the play, setting protections, doing all this. I think he's going to have a lot more control this year.
He has to be. That's the benefit of having a quarterback like Shurmur. It's not just what he can do with. It's not just what he can do physically. It's what he can do mentally. Being another coach on the field, getting your offense constantly in the right play. Whether it be a first down, whether it be a third and short, or getting into a manageable, kind of third or second or third down situation. I think Shurmur. I think that's definitely. He has room to grow, room to improve in that area. And I think we'll see that this year, 2024.
I would love to see an early season 3rd and 1 where they just line up under center and just hit someone in the mouth and move the chains.
Oh, that'd be dope.
Can't wait. What do we got next? We got a few to get through, so let's be a little quicker here. Demetrius asks, will Scott be able to fill in once a month or so or become a new tripod candidate? Very knowledgeable and ready to learn what buff life.
Shout out Demetrius, man. Appreciate
Scott's
that.
been crushing it, man. I've been trying to tell you all about it. We've been shouting him out on the show.
Yeah.
And like I said at the start, this has been overdue, honestly.
Yeah, we'll definitely have him on again soon.
Yep.
Appreciate y'all, man.
RJ says we got to get him with Uncle Neely. That'd be a great show, too.
Unc.
We'll get Unc back soon as well. Master Stickwork says, are ratings adjusted in real time throughout the year? That would be a game changer. I think that's what we all think.
Yeah, they are.
That'd be dope.
They are. They're dynamic, so it changes. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Like, I imagine last year, they probably would have ranked Shurmur of like, I don't know, an 83 or something, maybe.
It'd been like a 75,
maybe.
bro.
But like after
going into
week
the
one,
year,
week one, they would have been like, oh shit,
yeah, we
just like,
messed up.
Yeah, like rocking him up. So it'll be cool to see how some of these guys change. Like a Will Shepard, if he starts being on pace for a 1,200-yard season or something like that. LeJontay is one. Who had him? Was it Phil Steele? Like shockingly had him as like a second-team All-American or something. And I was like, oh, okay. So there are people out there who know about this guy. It'd be interesting to see if like EA is on to him, or if they're gonna have to update their rankings as well.
LeJontay a dog, man.
Yep.
People are gonna know.
Yep.
People are gonna know soon enough.
I mean, the fact that Shurmur basically went out and just recruited him himself
Exactly
tells you all you need to know.
Exactly.
Roll Elizabeth says, what's your score prediction for CU's first game of the season?
That's a good question. So interesting thing about that game. So I mentioned obviously I played college football.
Right.
My college head coach, offensive coordinator, quarterback coach for my final 3 years is NDSU's offensive line coach, Dan Larson.
Let's go.
So I got a real connection with NDSU's offensive line coach. I plan to chop it up with Coach Larson before that week 1 game and kind of get some intel and whatnot, see what he'll tell me. But the score prediction, man, I like the Buffs to win. I think the talent discrepancy is going to be very clear. But obviously it's in Boulder as well, so that bodes well for them. But a score prediction, I haven't really given this much thought, but I'll say like 38-17.
Nice.
Buffs.
That's a Fetty whopping.
Big facts.
17-38. I really like that score. Good on you. I would never give a score prediction this far out, but you're a bigger man of the people than I.
Andre asks, is Vestibule also available in the Netherlands, or is it just for you Americans? Scott, what's good? Amsterdam boy in that house.
Shout out Amsterdam.
I don't know. I'll find out if it's only available in the U.S. or not.
What's up, Artemis? They ask, I want to know how much hate does Scott get for covering the Buffs over in Fort Collins?
I don't get a ton of hate. I mean, I don't see a ton of hate. I do see it occasionally. Again, it's usually on social media where if like the Coloradoan like Twitter page will like tweet out one of my stories and then it'll be like a random comment like, this isn't Rams news or whatever. And it's just like, okay, buddy, we get it. But no, the hate hasn't gotten to me really much at all. So
just wait till week 3, bro.
I'm sure he's heard something from all 12 CSU fans.
I will say though, that is probably the game I'm most looking forward to.
Oh yeah.
Probably the entire season, for sure the early part, but that game in particular, man, I just can't wait for that one.
Oh, it's gonna be fireworks.
Yeah.
It is nice though. So you said you're living in Denver.
Yeah. I literally, like I said, I was just telling Jake, I just moved like a week and a half ago, and I just live like 10 minutes away from here. So
oh hell yeah.
Yeah.
Me too. Maybe we're close.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually great though, because obviously back in the day, if you worked for a paper in Fort Collins, you would have had to live in Fort Collins. You know.
Right. Which is very. I feel very blessed to not be able to be able to live where I want and move around and whatnot.
We got one super chat from Original. You guys think Coach Prime has earned that first coach contract yet? Evil Smirk, Colorado is back.
Is that a reference to what is that a reference to? Just all the people saying that he was getting overpaid or something?
I don't know. Yeah, I guess all the NFL jobs and stuff. But
I mean, you want to talk? We've talked about a lot of things. People talk about clicks, blah blah blah. You want to talk revenue generated? Coach Prime has definitely paid for his contract already.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's why, everyone got up in arms when he was hired. I don't know if you saw this, Scott, but right at Coach Prime's introductory press conference, there was kind of like a break-off session with Rick George afterwards. And someone asked, like, how are you going to pay for this contract or something? And Rick George said, I don't know yet. And like people,
I remember that.
People are like, "Wow, Colorado, gonna short him, or they don't have the money to." Yeah, they don't, exactly. No, they found a way. They found a way.
They did.
Selling out every game helps.
What else do we got in the comments?
Anything else?
CSU game is in Fort Collins.
Yes. It's kind of sad that what?
The bottom one.
It's kind of sad that now that this game has so much intrigue is when it's finally on campus. Now, I was not one of the biggest, because there are people who are really passionate about getting it back to campus. I believe college football games should be played on campus.
Yes.
And I'm not the biggest fan of these NFL ones. But if there was ever a time to have them in Denver, these last 2 years when the rivalry has been, maybe not at its peak, but as the best it's been in a long time would have been the best. And this year specifically, they would have sold out the stadium.
They would have sold out Mile High for sure. Definitely. All right. It's been a great show, man. Thank you so much for coming on. Like I said, overdue. You crushed it, though.
Hey, I appreciate y'all, man. Like I said, I appreciate y'all having me on, man. I feel like it's been a long time due. I really respect what y'all do over here at DNVR. Y'all do a great job. So this was fun for sure.
Hell yeah, man. We'll have you back on soon.
Very soon.
Looking forward to the content that you have coming out. We'll promote it on here as always.
Appreciate that.
Plug your stuff. Where can we find you?
Y'all can follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Scott Procter _. Go follow my work also at Coloradoan.com. Got Buffs content coming pretty regularly, so shout out y'all.
Hell yeah.
Alrighty, there you go. We'll be back tomorrow. We got team overall rankings, I think, from EACFB.
Oh, yeah.
So it's been a cool week of content from that game, and I'm sure we're going to see a lot more coming up soon. See you guys tomorrow. Let's go Buffs.
Go Buffs.
We all silly like the mayor.